I've spent the last 3 years being called Dad, in the same tone most people reserve for outdated furniture. You know the one? Affectionate enough on the surface, but underneath there's that unspoken acknowledgement that you're just taking up space until someone decides what to do with you. My son Jason turned 32 last April. His wife Veronica turned 30 in June, though she celebrated like she was crowning herself empress of something. They live in a house I helped them buy, drive cars I co-signed for, and vacation on credit cards I'm still listed as a guarantor on. None of this bothers me exactly. That's what parents do. We build scaffolding for our kids to climb, then step back and watch them pretend they did it alone. What bothers me is the tone, that careful, patient voice Jason uses now when he talks to me, like I'm a child who might wander into traffic. The way Veronica smiles at me during family dinners, wide and bright and completely empty. The kind of smile you'd give a stranger's dog. The hushed conversations that stop when I enter rooms. The exchanged glances that say everything I'm not supposed to notice. I notice everything. I noticed 6 months ago when Jason started asking detailed questions about my properties. I own 4 buildings in the metro area. Nothing massive, just solid commercial real estate I've accumulated over 30 years of careful investing. 2 retail spaces downtown, 1 office complex near the university, and a mixed-use building in the arts district that's tripled in value since I bought it in 2008. Just curious, he'd say, flipping through his phone with studied casualness. What's the assessed value on the downtown properties these days? Curious for what, I'd ask. Just general knowledge, estate planning stuff, you know. I didn't know, but I nodded and gave him rough numbers. Because what father doesn't answer his son's questions? I noticed 3 months ago when those questions got more specific. Zoning regulations, lease terms, tenant turnover rates, development potential. He started using phrases like future value proposition and generational wealth transfer, the kind of language people use when they're trying to sound smarter than they are. I noticed 2 months ago when Veronica started joining these conversations, her questions sharper and more direct than Jason's clumsy attempts at subtlety. Have you thought about what happens to everything when you retire? She asked once over Sunday dinner. I mean really retire, not just cutting back hours. My wife Patricia raised her eyebrows but said nothing. She's better at reading subtext than I am, better at understanding the dangerous spaces between words. I don't plan on retiring, I said. But eventually, Veronica pressed, her smile never wavering. Eventually you'll want to step back, enjoy life, travel, relax. Relax. As if I'd been doing hard labor for 40 years instead of building something that might actually matter. We'll see, I said, and changed the subject, but I kept noticing. I noticed last month when Jason mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that Veronica's father wanted to meet me. Gerald Hendricks, commercial real estate developer, a man whose name appears in business journals with words like visionary and aggressive attached to it, a man whose handshake probably feels like getting squeezed by a vice wrapped in expensive cologne. He's interested in your portfolio, Jason said. Professionally, I mean. Just wants to pick your brain about downtown development. My brain, I repeated. Yeah, you know, get your perspective. What he meant was, get access to your assets through the back door while you're too polite to say no. I agreed to the meeting because I wanted to see how far this went, how deep the rot had spread. That meeting is today. I'm standing in the lobby of the Riverside Grand Hotel, a gleaming monument to expensive taste that caters to business conferences and wedding receptions that cost more than some people's houses. It's 2:47 in the afternoon. Gerald Hendricks wants to meet at 3 Brews, according to Jason's carefully worded email that positioned the whole thing as a casual introduction. Nothing about Gerald Hendricks is casual. I'm wearing my good suit, the charcoal one Patricia picked out last year, saying I needed to look like someone who mattered. At the time I'd laughed, but now I understand what she meant. You have to dress for the role people have written for you, even if you're about to rewrite the script, especially then. I spot Gerald across the lobby before he spots me. He's exactly what I expected. Tall, broad-shouldered, silver hair swept back like he's posing for a yacht club membership photo. His suit probably costs more than my monthly mortgage. He's talking on his phone, gesturing with his free hand like he's conducting an invisible orchestra. Jason stands next to him, slightly behind and to the left, in the position reserved for subordinates and people seeking approval. He's dressed in a suit too, though his fit's worse than mine. His tie is slightly crooked. He looks nervous. He should be. Veronica is there too, wearing a dress that probably required 3 shopping trips and 2 consultations with friends who pretend to care about fashion. She's laughing at something Gerald said, the kind of laugh that's designed to signal agreement rather than actual amusement. They're a unit, the 3 of them, a family conference preparing for battle. I am the battlefield. I don't approach them. Instead, I turn and walk toward the bank of elevators on the opposite side of the lobby, the ones that lead to the executive conference suites on the 8th floor. Because here's what Jason doesn't know. I'm not here to meet Gerald Hendricks. I'm here to meet someone far more relevant. His name is Thomas Brennan, and he's a senior acquisitions director for Pacific Crown Investments, one of the largest commercial property firms on the West Coast. We've been talking for 3 months, quietly, carefully, through channels that don't leave obvious digital footprints. He's interested in my downtown properties. Very interested. The kind of interest that comes with preliminary offers that made Patricia gasp when I showed her the numbers. "You're selling?" she'd asked. "I'm considering options," I'd said. What I didn't say was, I'm removing the pieces from the board before anyone else can play them. The elevator dings open. I step inside and press the button for the 8th floor. The doors begin to slide shut. Then I hear Jason's voice, sharp with surprise. "Dad?" The doors close before I can respond. I watch the floor numbers climb, 3, 4, 5, and allow myself a small smile. He didn't expect to see me here, didn't expect me to be anywhere but waiting downstairs like a good little prop in his presentation about future investment strategies. That I know, from Patricia's careful snooping through Jason's laptop last week, involves detailed plans for leveraging my properties as collateral for some grand expansion scheme Gerald's been nurturing. They think I'm soft, forgettable, easy to bypass. They're about to learn otherwise. The elevator opens on the 8th floor. The hallway is quiet, carpeted in that thick, expensive way that swallows sound. Conference room 804 is at the far end, its double doors closed but light visible through the frosted glass panels. I check my watch. 2:51. I'm early. Thomas Brennan is earlier. He's already in the conference room when I open the door, standing by the windows that overlook the river, his back to me. He turns when he hears the door, and his face breaks into a smile that looks genuinely pleased to see me. "Robert," he says, extending his hand. "Right on time?" "Always am," I say, shaking his hand. His grip is firm but not aggressive. He's in his mid-50s, lean and sharp-eyed, with the kind of quiet confidence that comes from decades of closing deals that reshape city skylines. "Beautiful view," he says, gesturing to the window. I join him there and look out at the river, the bridges, the sprawl of downtown buildings catching afternoon light. Somewhere down there, 8 floors below, Jason is probably panicking, trying to figure out why I'm here, whether this is coincidence or something worse. It's something worse. "Shall we?" Thomas says, gesturing to the conference table. We sit. He opens his briefcase and pulls out a folder thick with documents. This is the moment, the real meeting, the one that matters, the one Jason has no idea is happening. "I've reviewed your counter-proposal," Thomas says, laying out papers between us. "My team is very impressed. These properties have more potential than we initially estimated." "I know," I say simply. He grins. "I bet you do. So let's talk specifics. Timeline, transition, your role going forward." That's when the conference room door slams open. Jason stands in the doorway, breathing hard like he just sprinted up 8 flights of stairs. His tie is even more crooked now. His face is flushed red. Behind him, Veronica appears, slightly out of breath, her careful makeup showing stress cracks. "Dad," Jason says, his voice strangled, "what are you doing here?" I lean back in my chair, completely relaxed, and meet my son's eyes with something I've been holding back for months. Recognition that he's not in control. "I'm in a meeting," I say calmly. "What are you doing here?" He glances at Thomas, then back at me. "We have a meeting with Gerald Hendricks, downstairs." "I'm aware." "You're aware?" His voice climbs higher. "Then why are you up here?" Thomas clears his throat politely. "I'm sorry. Is there a problem?" Jason stares at Thomas like he's seeing him for the first time. "Who are you?" "Thomas Brennan, Pacific Crown Investments." He extends his hand across the table. Jason doesn't take it. He's too busy looking at the papers spread between Thomas and me. Documents with official letterheads, property surveys, preliminary contracts. His presentation notes, the ones he's been carrying in a leather portfolio under his arm, slip from his fingers. They hit the floor with a sound like thunder in the sudden silence. "Jason," I say quietly, "you might want to sit down, son. You're about to hear something important." As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? Jason doesn't sit down. He just stands there in the doorway, staring at the papers scattered at his feet like they're written in a language he used to know but has suddenly forgotten. Veronica bends to pick them up, her hands shaking slightly, that practiced smile finally cracking around the edges. Thomas Brennan watches this with the detached interest of someone who's seen family drama derail business deals before. He glances at me, one eyebrow raised in a silent question. Do you want privacy? I shake my head slightly. No. Jason, I say again. Close the door. You're letting the heat out. He moves automatically, reaching back to pull the door shut, his eyes never leaving the conference table. Veronica straightens up, clutching his presentation notes against her chest like a shield. She's recovered her composure faster than he has. I'll give her that. Mr. Brennan, she says, her voice smooth as ice water. I apologize for the interruption. We didn't realize my father-in-law had a meeting scheduled at the same time as ours. No apology necessary, Thomas says pleasantly. Though I should mention, our meeting has been scheduled for 2 weeks. I flew in from Seattle specifically for this. Jason's face goes from red to white. 2 weeks? Yes, I say. We've been in negotiations for about 3 months total. This is the final details meeting. Negotiations for what? The question comes out hoarse. Thomas glances at me. I nod. He can answer this one. Your father is selling 3 of his 4 commercial properties to Pacific Crown, Thomas says matter-of-factly. We're finalizing terms today. The sale should close within 60 days, assuming inspections and title work proceed smoothly. The silence that follows is the kind you feel in your bones. Veronica speaks first. 3 properties? The 2 downtown retail spaces and the office complex near the university, I say. The Arts District building isn't part of the deal. I'm keeping that one. You're selling. Jason's voice sounds like something's broken in his throat. You're selling without telling us? I'm telling you now, I say. That's not... He stops, runs his hand through his hair, leaves it sticking up in weird angles. Dad, we need to talk, privately. We can talk right here. Not with... He gestures helplessly at Thomas. Not in front of strangers. Mr. Brennan isn't a stranger. He's a business partner. I keep my voice level, reasonable. This is important. Sound calm, and they lose the moral high ground of being the reasonable ones. And whatever you need to say, you can say it here. Veronica steps forward, putting herself slightly in front of Jason. Interesting. She's faster to adapt than he is, faster to understand that frontal assault won't work. Robert, she says, she's never called me Dad, which I've always appreciated for its honesty. I think there's been a miscommunication. Jason was planning to present some ideas today about maximizing the value of the family assets, strategies for long-term growth, expansion opportunities, that sort of thing. Family assets, I repeat. Yes. Which assets specifically? She hesitates, just a fraction of a second, but it's enough. Your properties, obviously, the commercial holdings. You thought they were available for you to plan around. They're family assets. Jason cuts in, finding his voice again. That's what you always said. Building something for the next generation. Legacy planning. I said I was building something that might matter, I correct. I never said I was building it for you. That lands like a slap. Jason actually rocks back on his heels. You're my father, he says, and there's genuine confusion in his voice now, like this is a betrayal he never saw coming. These properties, they're supposed to be part of the family. They are part of the family. My family, the one I built with Patricia. I fold my hands on the table, a gesture I learned from watching judges on courthouse shows. Calm authority. You're part of that family, Jason, but you're not entitled to control of assets you didn't build, didn't maintain, and frankly, have demonstrated you're not responsible enough to manage. Demonstrated? Veronica's voice sharpens. What's that supposed to mean? Thomas clears his throat again. Perhaps I should step out. Stay, I say. Then to Veronica. It means I know about the presentations you've been preparing, the pitch deck, the investment strategy that lists my properties as available collateral for Gerald's expansion plans. Her face goes absolutely still. I know about the meetings you've had with your father's financial team. I continue. The ones where you promised them access to downtown real estate in exchange for backing Jason's position in the firm. I know about the loan applications that list my address as primary residence to improve qualification terms. I know about the business cards Jason had printed that call him Director of Family Investments. Jason opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. So when you ask what I mean by demonstrated, I say, looking directly at Veronica, I mean that you've demonstrated exactly who you are. Both of you. So Thomas is no longer even pretending not to listen. He's leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, watching this play out with what might be professional interest or might be morbid fascination. Veronica recovers first, as I knew she would. She's tougher than Jason, smarter in some ways, more willing to fight dirty. So what? She says, her voice ice cold now. You're punishing your own son for being ambitious? For trying to build something? I'm not punishing anyone. I'm managing my assets. By selling them out from under us. They were never under you. We had plans. You had fantasies. I stand up slowly, making them wait. You built a house of cards using property you don't own, and now you're angry that I'm not letting you live in it. Jason finds his voice again. Dad, please, let's talk about this. Downstairs, away from... Another helpless gesture at Thomas. Just give us a chance to explain. Explain what? How you were going to leverage my life's work to impress your wife's family? How you were going to push me into retirement so you could play real estate mogul? I walk around the table, slowly, giving them time to absorb every word. Or maybe you want to explain why you've spent the last 6 months treating me like I'm senile, like I'm some doddering old man who can't understand the big important business deals you're making. We never, Jason starts. You stopped asking my advice 3 months ago, I say quietly. Started asking Patricia instead when you thought I wasn't listening. Started using that voice, that careful, patient voice like you're talking to a child. Started making decisions about the family future without including the person who actually built that future. Veronica's jaw tightens. You're being dramatic. Am I? I turn to Thomas. Tell them what else is in our deal. Thomas looks slightly uncomfortable, but he answers. In addition to the property purchase, Pacific Crown has offered Robert a senior advisory position. Consulting work, primarily remote, with the option to be as involved or uninvolved as he chooses. The compensation package is substantial. How substantial? Veronica asks. That's none of your business, I say. Like hell it isn't. Veronica. Jason puts his hand on her arm. She shakes it off. No, I'm not going to stand here and watch him throw away everything we've been building. You've been building, I interrupt, on sand, on assumptions, on the idea that I was too weak or too stupid to notice what you were doing. We were trying to help. You were trying to take over. The room falls silent again. Outside the windows, the afternoon sun has shifted, throwing long shadows across the river. Somewhere in the building, an elevator dings. Normal life continuing while this one fragments. Jason looks at his wife, then at me, then at the floor. When he speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper. What about the meeting with Gerald? What about it? He's downstairs, waiting. We're supposed to present, then go present. I return to my seat at the conference table, picking up one of Thomas's documents. I'm sure he'll be very interested to hear your investment strategy now that the investments don't exist. Veronica's face twists into something ugly. You planned this. I managed my affairs. You set us up. You knew we had this meeting today. You scheduled yours at the same time on purpose. Actually, Thomas interjects, I scheduled this meeting. Robert gave me 3 possible dates, and today worked best for my travel schedule. She doesn't believe him. I can see it in her eyes. But there's nothing she can do with that suspicion except swallow it. Jason is still staring at the floor, at his dropped presentation notes. Veronica bends to pick them up again, more roughly this time. The papers crumple in her grip. You're going to regret this, she says to me. Possibly, but not as much as you're going to regret building your entire future on property you never owned. She grabs Jason's arm. Come on, we need to talk to my father. Jason lets himself be pulled toward the door, moving like a sleepwalker. Then he stops, turns back to me one more time. Why? He asks. Simple question. Massive weight. They leave. The door clicks shut behind them. Thomas lets out a long breath. Well, that was necessary, I finish. I was going to say uncomfortable, but sure, necessary works. I sit back down, feeling the adrenaline start to fade, leaving behind something that might be regret or might just be exhaustion. Let's finish this. Are you sure? We can reschedule if... I'm sure. He studies my face for a moment, then nods and returns to the documents. All right, so, the transfer timeline. But I'm not really listening anymore. I'm thinking about Jason's face when he asked why. Thinking about the years I spent building something stable for my family, only to watch my son treat it like monopoly money. Thinking about the conversation Patricia and I had last night, sitting in our kitchen after midnight, when she asked me if I was really sure about this. They need to learn, I'd said. They're going to hate you, she'd replied. They already see me as irrelevant. Hate at least means I matter. She'd reached across the table and taken my hand. This is going to get ugly. I know. Worse than you think. I know that too. She'd squeezed my hand tighter. Then let's make sure we're ready. We're ready, I think now, watching Thomas explain clauses and timelines. We've been ready for months, building our own plan while Jason built his house of cards. The difference is, ours is real. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I pull it out, glance at the screen. Text from Patricia. They just walked past the restaurant looking like someone died. Did it go badly? I type back. Depends on your perspective. 3 dots appear as she types. Then, come home when you're done. I'll open the good wine. I smile and pocket the phone. Thomas is watching me. Everything okay? Everything's fine, I say. Let's talk about that advisory position. I watch through the window as Veronica gets out of her car, a Mercedes that I know for a fact is leased, not owned, because Jason accidentally mentioned the payment once and I did the math. She's dressed like she's going to a business meeting, tailored suit, heels, hair perfect, war paint. Should I let her in? Patricia asks from beside me. Yes, but I want you in the room. Obviously. We wait for the doorbell. When it rings, Patricia opens the door while I stand in the background, visible but not immediately present. Let Veronica come to me. Patricia, Veronica says, her voice carefully modulated to sound pleasant but not warm. I was hoping to speak with Robert. He's here, Patricia says, not moving from the doorway. What's this about? Family business? Private family business? I'm family, Patricia points out. Veronica's smile tightens a fraction. Of course. I meant, could we come in? Patricia looks back at me. I nod. She steps aside, letting Veronica enter our home for what might be the last time. Veronica walks into the living room with the confidence of someone who's decided how this conversation will go. She sits in the chair near the fireplace without being invited, crosses her legs, and folds her hands in her lap. Every movement calculated. Robert, she says, thank you for seeing me. I haven't agreed to see you yet, I say, remaining standing. I'm deciding. That throws her. Just a flicker, but I catch it. She recovers quickly. I understand you're upset. Do you? Yes, Jason overstepped. He made assumptions about assets that weren't his to leverage. I get that. It was wrong, and we're both very sorry. Are you? Yes. She leans forward slightly, earnest now. We're sorry. We handled this badly. But Robert, you have to understand. We were trying to build something. For the family. For the future. Jason's position with my father's firm is contingent on him bringing value to the table. Real value. When he told my father about your properties, about the potential for partnership, he was trying to secure our future. By promising access to things he didn't own. By being ambitious, she counters. By thinking ahead. By trying to elevate our family's position. Your family's position was fine. No, it wasn't. The mask slips a little, showing something sharper underneath. Jason makes decent money, but not great money. Not enough for the life we want. Not enough for the circles we're trying to move in. My father's business could change that, could set us up for real success, but only if Jason brought something to the table. And I was supposed to be what he brought? You're his father. Your assets are part of his legacy. No, I cut her off. My assets are my assets. Jason's legacy is whatever he builds himself, not whatever he inherits or leverages from me. She sits back, and I can see her recalculating. This isn't going the way she planned. Robert, she tries again, softer now. I know Jason hurt you. I know we both did. But you're destroying more than just our business plans. You're destroying our marriage. That's dramatic. It's true. And there, finally, is something that might be genuine emotion in her voice. My father is furious. He feels betrayed, lied to. He's talking about pulling Jason from the firm entirely. And if that happens, if Jason loses his position... She doesn't finish the sentence, but the implication hangs there. Then you'll leave him, I say flatly. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I move to the other chair, finally sitting, but maintaining the distance between us. Veronica, let me be very clear about something. If your marriage is contingent on my son having access to my money, then your marriage was never real to begin with. And if you leave him because he can't deliver on promises he never should have made, then honestly he's better off without you. Her face hardens. You don't know anything about our marriage. I know you're here trying to manipulate me into fixing something that isn't my responsibility to fix. I'm here trying to save my family. No, you're here trying to save your lifestyle. I lean forward. There's a difference. Patricia, who's been silent until now, speaks from her position near the doorway. Veronica, did Jason send you here? Veronica hesitates. He knows I'm here? That's not what I asked. He doesn't think talking to Robert will help. But I thought maybe, woman to woman, if I explained. I'm not a woman to you, Patricia interrupts quietly. I'm an obstacle, just like Robert is. You came here thinking I'd be easier to manipulate than he is. That's not... It is exactly that. Patricia comes further into the room. You thought you could appeal to some kind of motherly instinct, make me feel guilty about my son's situation, get me to pressure Robert into backing down. But here's what you don't understand. I was the one who encouraged him to sell. I was the one who found the buyer. I was the one who pushed him to stop letting Jason take advantage of him. Veronica stares at her. You did this? We did this, Patricia corrects. Together. Because we're partners and we protect each other. Something you might understand if your marriage was based on more than financial expectations. The temperature in the room drops several degrees. Veronica stands up slowly. I came here in good faith. No, you didn't, I say. You came here because your father told you to. Because he's trying every angle to fix the situation Jason created. First, he tried intimidating me. When that didn't work, he sent you to guilt trip us. When this doesn't work, and it won't, he'll try something else. Legal pressure, maybe. Social pressure through mutual friends. Business pressure through connections. My father is a powerful man. So am I say quietly. I just don't need to announce it. She looks between us, and I can see her processing this new reality. We're not the easy targets she expected. We're not going to fold. You're both making a terrible mistake, she says finally. Maybe, Patricia agrees, but it's our mistake to make. Veronica picks up her purse, movements sharp with anger. Jason was right. You're not the man he thought you were. She walks to the door, then turns back one more time. You know what's sad? Jason idolized you. Growing up, all he wanted was to be like you, to make you proud, and now he has to be his own person, I finish. That's not sad. That's growing up. She leaves without another word. Through the window, we watch her get into her Mercedes and drive away too fast. Patricia sits down heavily in the chair Veronica vacated. Well, that went badly. It was always going to go badly. She's going to tell Jason we're monsters. Probably. Gerald's going to escalate. Definitely. She looks at me. Any regrets yet? Ask me again in an hour. But an hour later, I still don't regret it. What I feel instead is a kind of calm determination. They're going to come at us from every angle. Gerald with his lawyers and connections, Veronica with her manipulations and guilt trips, Jason with his hurt feelings and sense of betrayal. Let them come. Danny calls at 6 p.m. Heard you had a visitor today. News travels fast. In this town? Always. He pauses. How'd it go? About as well as expected. Veronica tried the sympathy angle. Didn't work. Good. Next they'll try the business angle. Gerald's probably already making calls, trying to find leverage. Let him. The sale's airtight, and Pacific Crown has lawyers who eat guys like Gerald for breakfast. Don't get cocky, Robert. Gerald didn't build his business by being stupid. He's going to find an angle. Then I'll deal with it when he does. Another pause. You sound different. Different how? Harder. Like you've made peace with whatever comes next? Maybe I have. That's dangerous. Why? Because when a man makes peace with consequences, he starts making decisions he normally wouldn't. Aggressive decisions. Risk-taking decisions. Danny's voice is serious now. I've known you 30 years, Robert. You're not naturally a fighter. You're a builder, a planner. But right now you're in fighter mode, and that worries me. You think I should back down? I think you should be careful not to let this turn into something that destroys more than Jason's plans. Families are fragile things. Once you break them, they don't always heal. The family was already broken, I say. I'm just the first one willing to acknowledge it. Maybe. But there's acknowledging it, and there's burning it to the ground. Make sure you know which one you're doing. After he hangs up, I think about that. About the difference between standing up for myself and going scorched earth. About where the line is and whether I'm still on the right side of it. Patricia finds me in my study an hour later, staring at old photos on my desk. Jason at 5, missing his front teeth. Jason at 10, holding up a terrible clay pot he made in school. Jason at 18, graduating high school, looking at the camera like the future was full of promise. Having second thoughts? She asks. Having all the thoughts, I admit. Danny thinks I'm going too far. Danny's not the one who spent 3 years being patronized by his own son. No, but he might be right that I'm letting this turn into something bigger than it needs to be. She comes to stand behind me, putting her hands on my shoulders. What do you want, Robert? Really, strip away the anger and the hurt and the principle of the thing. What do you actually want? I think about that. I want my son to respect me. I want him to see me as a person, not as a resource. I want him to understand that what I built matters and that he can't just claim it because we share DNA. And if he never gets there, if this just pushes him further away, then at least I'll have drawn a line. At least I'll have said this far and no further. At least I won't spend my remaining years being treated like furniture. She squeezes my shoulders. Okay, then we keep going. You're sure? I'm sure. But Robert, Danny's right about one thing. We need to be careful. Gerald is going to escalate, and when he does, we need to be ready with more than just righteous anger. What do you suggest? I suggest we document everything, every threat, every attempt at manipulation, every questionable business move. If Gerald's going to come after us, we should make sure we have ammunition to fire back. That sounds smart, she offers. I was going to say slightly terrifying. Well, it's both. She's right. This is escalating beyond a simple family dispute into something that might require lawyers and documentation and strategic planning. Part of me wants to be horrified by that. But mostly, I'm just tired. Tired of being underestimated. Tired of being used. Tired of watching my son become someone I don't recognize. If fighting back means things get worse before they get better, so be it. I'm done being soft. 3 days pass. 3 days of tense quiet, like the pressure before a storm. Jason doesn't call. Veronica doesn't show up again. Even Gerald seems to have gone silent. It's worse than confrontation. At least with confrontation, you know where everyone stands. Patricia spends those days making phone calls of her own. Her network is different from mine. PTA connections from when Jason was young, book club friends, volunteer organization contacts. People who know things. By the end of day 2, she's compiled a disturbing picture. Gerald's been asking around about you, she tells me over dinner. Not directly, through intermediaries. Wants to know about your finances, your business history, whether there's anything questionable in your past. Looking for dirt. Looking for leverage, she corrects. If he can find something, anything that makes you look bad, he can use it to pressure you or discredit you if this goes public. There's nothing to find. I've run everything by the book for 30 years. I know that, but Gerald's the kind of man who believes everyone has secrets. If he can't find real ones, he'll try to manufacture them. That night I barely sleep, running through every business decision I've ever made, every property purchase, every lease agreement, looking for the weakness Gerald might exploit. I find nothing. Because there is nothing. I've been almost boringly legitimate, but that doesn't stop the worry. On the 4th day, the other shoe drops. I'm at the university office complex, the one I'm selling to Pacific Crown, meeting with the building manager about tenant notifications for the transition. It's a routine meeting, nothing unusual. I'm walking back to my car in the parking lot when a man I don't recognize steps into my path. He's in his 30s, athletic build, expensive suit. Security contractor, maybe. Or private investigator. He's got that look. Mr. Whitman, he says. Yes? I need to talk to you about your property sale to Pacific Crown Investments. Every alarm bell in my head starts ringing. Who are you? Trevor Banks. I work for Hendricks Development Group. Mr. Hendricks asked me to deliver a message. Gerald has my number. This is the kind of message that needs to be delivered in person. I glance around the parking lot. There are other people around, cars passing on the street, enough witnesses that I don't feel physically threatened, but this whole situation feels wrong. What's the message? I ask. Trevor pulls out a folder. Mr. Hendricks wants you to know he's filed a legal challenge to your property sale. He's claiming that promises were made, in writing, that give his firm development rights to these properties. He has email documentation from your son discussing partnership structures and long-term planning. Jason doesn't have authority to make those promises. That's a matter for the courts to decide. But in the meantime, Mr. Hendricks is requesting a temporary injunction to halt the sale until ownership and rights can be properly determined. I take the folder. Inside is a stack of papers, legal filings, email printouts, even text messages between Jason and various people in Gerald's organization. It's thorough, disturbingly thorough. This won't work, I say, keeping my voice steady. Jason had no legal authority to negotiate on my behalf. Any promises he made are void. Maybe, But defending against this will cost you time and legal fees. Pacific Crown might decide the hassle isn't worth it and back out, or they might demand you settle with Hendricks before they proceed. Either way, Mr. Hendricks has leverage now. Is that the message? That Gerald has leverage? The message is that Mr. Hendricks is willing to make this whole problem go away, but only if you're willing to negotiate in good faith. Negotiate what? Access, partnership structures, something that makes everyone whole. I close the folder and hand it back. Tell Gerald the answer is no. Tell him to file whatever challenges he wants. Tell him I'll see him in court if that's what it takes. Trevor doesn't take the folder back. Mr. Whitman, with all due respect, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Your son made promises. My son had no authority to make promises. End of story. But he did make them, and my firm relied on them. That creates a reasonable expectation. No, I cut him off. It creates evidence of fraud on Jason's part. If Gerald wants to sue someone, he can sue Jason, but he's not touching my property sale. Trevor's expression hardens. You're being unreasonable. I'm being clear. There's a difference. Mr. Hendricks thought you might take this position. He asked me to remind you that court cases take time. They become public record. They attract attention. Are you sure you want all your business dealings examined in open court? Are you sure there's nothing in your past that might look bad under scrutiny? There it is, the threat Patricia predicted. Is Gerald threatening to make up dirt if he can't find real dirt? I asked quietly. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. You're threatening to drag me through a public legal battle and hope something embarrassing shakes loose. Or maybe manufacture something embarrassing if the real investigation comes up empty. That's extortion, Trevor. That's legal strategy. It's garbage, and Gerald knows it. These properties are mine. The sale is legitimate. Jason's promises were fraudulent. No judge is going to halt a legal property sale based on unauthorized promises from someone who doesn't own the property. You seem very confident. I am confident, because I did everything right, and Gerald's fishing. Trevor studies me for a long moment, then shrugs. Your choice. But don't say you weren't warned. He turns to leave, then stops and looks back. One more thing. Mr. Hendricks also wanted me to mention that his firm has very good relationships with several city council members. Relationships that could be useful or problematic, depending on how cooperative you choose to be. And there's the other shoe, political pressure. Tell Gerald I'll remember he said that, I say. And tell him that threatening to weaponize government officials against a private citizen is probably something those same officials would love to hear about. Trevor's jaw tightens. He leaves without another word. I stand in the parking lot for a full minute after he's gone, holding the folder, feeling the weight of escalation. This isn't a family squabble anymore. This is a business war. I call Patricia from the car. Gerald just made his move, I tell her, then explain the whole encounter. She's quiet for a long moment. How bad is it? Bad. He's got documentation of Jason's promises, probably enough to justify filing a legal challenge, even if it ultimately fails. And he's threatening political pressure if the legal route doesn't work. Can he actually block the sale? Probably not permanently, but he can delay it, make it expensive, make Pacific Crown nervous enough to reconsider. So what do we do? I think about that, about Trevor's smug face, about Gerald's carefully orchestrated intimidation campaign, about Jason, who apparently kept detailed written records of promises he had no right to make. We call his bluff, I say, and then we hit back harder than he's expecting. Robert? No, listen. Gerald's used to people folding when he applies pressure. That's his whole strategy. But what if we don't fold? What if we go public with what he's doing? Use the media, use social connections, make him defend his own tactics. That's risky. Everything's risky now. But at least this way, we're on offense instead of defense. She's quiet again. Then, okay, but we do this smart. We need documentation of our own. We need witnesses. We need to make sure that if this turns into a public fight, we're the ones who look reasonable, and Gerald's the one who looks like a bully. Agreed. Can you call Danny? I want him to hear this Trevor conversation while it's fresh. I will, but Robert, there's something else you need to know. What? I got a call today. From Jason. My stomach tightens. What did he want? To apologize. To me, specifically. He said he knows what he did was wrong, that he's been thinking about it for days, and he wants to try to fix things. He asked if there was any way we could all sit down and talk. Really talk, not just yell at each other. What did you tell him? I told him I'd think about it and talk to you. I gripped the steering wheel harder. Do you want to meet with him? I don't know. Part of me does. He's our son, Robert. Even if he's made terrible choices, he's still our son. And if it's just another manipulation, if Gerald sent him to soften us up, then we'll know. But what if it's real? What if he genuinely wants to make amends? After everything? People change. People grow up. Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to realize you've been going the wrong direction. I close my eyes, trying to separate my anger from my judgment, trying to figure out if there's room for reconciliation in the middle of this war. Let me think about it, I say finally. Okay. But Patricia, if we do meet with him, it's not going to change the property sale. That's done. That's not negotiable. I know. And if he's trying to guilt us into backing down, then we'll know he hasn't really changed, and we'll end the meeting. But Robert, we have to at least consider the possibility that he's sincere. She's right. I hate that she's right, but she is. Tomorrow, I say. We'll decide tomorrow. Right now I need to get home and figure out how to respond to Gerald's legal filing. Drive safe. I drive home in a haze of conflicting emotions. Anger at Gerald. Worry about the legal challenge. And underneath it all, a tiny seed of hope that maybe, just maybe, Jason has finally woken up to what he's done. But hope is dangerous. Hope makes you vulnerable. I've been vulnerable enough. The meeting with Jason happens 2 days later, at a coffee shop halfway between our neighborhoods. Neutral ground, Patricia insisted. Public enough to feel safe, private enough to have a real conversation. I arrive early and take a table near the back, facing the door. Old habit from too many business meetings where I wanted to see who was coming before they saw me. Jason arrives exactly on time. He's lost weight. There are dark circles under his eyes. He's dressed in jeans and a wrinkled button-down instead of his usual careful professional attire. He looks, for the first time since his wedding, like someone who's actually suffering consequences. He spots me and hesitates before approaching the table. That hesitation, that moment of uncertainty, tells me more than words could. "Dad," he says quietly, standing across from me. "Jason." I gesture to the chair. "Sit." He sits, but doesn't meet my eyes. Just stares at his hands folded on the table. For a long minute, neither of us speaks. "Thank you for coming," he says finally. "Patricia asked me to." "I know. I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either." He looks up then, and I'm startled by the raw pain in his face. This isn't the angry, defensive Jason from the hotel. This is someone who's been taking a hard look at himself and doesn't like what he's found. "I'm sorry," he says. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to hear it. I'm sorry for everything. The properties, the promises I made, the way I treated you and Mom, all of it. Are you sorry because Gerald's cutting you loose, or because you actually understand what you did wrong?" He flinches. "That's fair. And honestly, both. Gerald's firm is probably going to let me go. Veronica's family thinks I'm a fraud and a liar. My marriage is hanging by a thread. So yes, I'm sorry because my life is falling apart. But I'm also sorry because I finally understand how it must have looked from your perspective, how it must have felt." "How did it look?" He takes a breath. "Like I was trying to steal your life's work. Like I saw you as an obstacle instead of a person. Like I'd convinced myself that what you built existed for me to use, rather than something you earned and owned. That's exactly how it looked. I know. And Dad, I swear I didn't set out to do that. I never woke up thinking today I'm going to exploit my father. It happened gradually, small steps, asking questions about the properties, getting excited about the potential, starting to see them as part of my future. Then Veronica's father got involved, and suddenly there was this pressure to deliver, to prove I was worth investing in. And I kept going, kept making promises, kept building this fantasy where everything would work out because it had to work out. Because you're entitled to it working out." He nods miserably. "Yeah, because somewhere along the line I stopped thinking about what was right or fair and started thinking about what I wanted." I study his face, looking for signs of manipulation, for the careful calculation I've seen from Veronica. I find only exhaustion and shame. "Where's Veronica now?" I ask. "At her parents' house. We had a fight. A bad one. She wanted me to come here and beg you to drop the sale, offer you whatever it took to make this go away. I told her that wasn't going to happen, that even if I begged, you wouldn't change your mind, and you'd be right not to. And she didn't like that answer. She told me I was choosing you over her, over our future. I told her..." He stops, swallows hard. "I told her that if our future depended on me betraying you again, then maybe we didn't have a future worth saving." That stops me cold. "You said that?" "Yeah." He laughs bitterly. "First honest thing I've said to her in months. She's talking to divorce lawyers now. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right. Our marriage was transactional. I just didn't want to admit it. He meets my eyes directly. She didn't marry me, Dad. She married the idea of me, the future she thought I could provide. When that future disappeared, so did her interest in actually being my wife. What are you going to do? I don't know. Figure out my life, I guess. Without the job, without Veronica, without the properties I never actually owned. He runs his hand through his hair. Start over, maybe. Actually build something instead of trying to claim something someone else built. We sit in silence. The coffee shop is moderately busy. People coming and going. Normal life swirling around us while we sit in the wreckage of our family. Gerald's filing a legal challenge, I say. Did you know about that? Jason nods. I heard. He sent someone to talk to you, right? How did you know? Because he sent me to talk to you first. Wanted me to test the waters, see if you'd be willing to negotiate. I told him no. Told him you'd already made your decision and I wasn't going to be his messenger anymore. And he didn't like that. He told me I was making a serious mistake, that I was choosing the wrong side, that if I wanted any chance of staying in his organization, I needed to convince you to back down. What did you say? Jason meets my eyes again. I told him to go to hell, then I cleaned out my desk and left. I stare at him. You quit? I got fired, technically, for insubordination. But yeah, I'm done there. He laughs again, that same bitter sound. Turns out, when you tell your father-in-law to go to hell, he doesn't want you working for his company anymore. Who knew? Jason, no, it's fine. Better than fine, actually. The pressure, the politics. Having to kiss ass constantly just to stay relevant. I hated it. I just didn't want to admit I hated it, because admitting that meant admitting I'd chosen wrong. So what now? Now I figure out what I actually want to do with my life. What I'm actually good at, as opposed to what I thought would impress people. He leans forward. But Dad, I need you to understand something. I'm not here to ask you to change anything. The property sale is your decision. Gerald can file whatever challenges he wants. They won't hold up because I never had authority to make those promises, and any judge will see that. I'm not here to try to fix my mess by getting you to bend. Then why are you here? Because you're my father. Because I spent 3 years treating you like crap, and you deserve better than that. Because even if our relationship is permanently damaged, I need you to know that I finally understand what I did wrong. His voice cracks. And because I'm hoping that maybe, someday, you might be able to forgive me, even if that someday is years from now. The words hit me harder than I expected. This is what I wanted. Acknowledgement, understanding, genuine remorse. But now that I have it, I don't know what to do with it. You hurt me, I say quietly. You and Veronica both. You made me feel irrelevant in my own life. I know. You treated Patricia like she was invisible, just an accessory to my assets. I know. And Dad, I'll apologize to her too, properly. Not the bullshit half apology I tried on the phone, a real one. She'd appreciate that. We fall silent again. Outside the window, normal life continues. Cars passing, people walking, the world not caring about our small human drama. The legal challenge won't work, I say eventually. Gerald's lawyers will figure that out soon enough, but he'll probably keep pushing in other ways. Political pressure, social pressure, trying to make my life difficult. I know. And Dad, if you need me to testify or provide documentation about what really happened, about how I made those promises without authority, I will. I'll stand up in court and admit I screwed up if that's what it takes. That offer costs him something. I can see it in his face. We'll see, I say. But thank you. Does this mean... He doesn't finish the question, but I know what he's asking. Does this mean we're okay? It means I heard you, I say carefully. It means I believe you're sincere. But Jason, rebuilding trust takes time. You can't demolish someone's faith in you over 3 years and rebuild it in one conversation. I know. And the property sale is still happening. Nothing you've said changes that. I know that too. And if Veronica comes back, if she decides she can live with the new reality and tries to win you over again, I'm done with Veronica, he interrupts. Even if she wanted to stay, which she doesn't, I'm done. I finally see what you and Mom saw from the beginning. She never loved me. She loved what she thought I could provide. That's a hard thing to accept. Yeah. He stares at his hands again. But it's also freeing in a weird way. Like I don't have to pretend anymore. Don't have to perform. I can just be whoever I actually am instead of whoever I thought would be impressive enough. My phone buzzes. Text from Patricia. How's it going? I type back, "Better than expected. Tell you later." Jason sees me texting. "That's Mom?" "Yeah. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I'll call her tomorrow if she's willing to talk." "Tell her yourself." I stand up. "Come to the house tonight, for dinner. Both of you need to have this conversation face to face." He blinks. "You want me to come to dinner?" Patricia does, and so do I, apparently. I'm as surprised as he is, but it feels right. 7:00. Don't be late. I won't. He stands too, and for a moment I think he's going to try to hug me, but he doesn't, just nods, understanding that we're not there yet. "Dad?" he says as I turn to leave. "Yeah?" "Thank you for giving me a chance." "Don't waste it," I say. I walk out of the coffee shop feeling lighter than I have in days. The anger's still there. That doesn't just disappear, but it's not the only thing I'm feeling anymore. Patricia calls before I reach my car. "Well?" she asks. "He quit Gerald's firm, told Gerald to go to hell, Veronica's leaving him, and he actually seems to understand what he did wrong." Silence. Then, "Are you serious?" "I'm serious." "Oh my God." "I invited him to dinner tonight. That okay?" "Yes. Yes, absolutely." "Robert, this is good news, right? This is what we wanted?" "Part of it," I say. "He's taking responsibility. That's a start." But Gerald's still out there, still filing legal challenges, still trying to pressure us through other channels. Jason understanding what he did wrong doesn't make Gerald disappear. "No," she agrees. "But it does mean we're not fighting on all fronts anymore." She's right. This doesn't fix everything, but it removes one major complication. Jason's not our enemy anymore. That's something. I drive home with something that feels dangerously close to hope, but in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking about Trevor's threats, about Gerald's legal filing, about the battle that's still coming, regardless of Jason's change of heart. This isn't over. Not even close. Dinner is awkward, but not hostile. Jason arrives at 6:58, clutching a bottle of wine like a peace offering. Patricia hugs him, actual physical contact, which surprises both of them, and I shake his hand. We're testing boundaries, figuring out new rules for a relationship that doesn't follow the old patterns. Over pot roast and roasted vegetables, Jason tells us everything. The full story of how he got entangled with Gerald's plans, how Veronica pushed him to promise more than he could deliver, how the pressure built until he couldn't see any way out except forward. "I kept thinking if I could just make it work," he says, pushing food around his plate. "If I could just deliver what I promised, then everything would be fine. You'd be proud of me, Veronica's family would accept me, I'd have this amazing career. The fact that I was building it all on lies somehow didn't register until everything collapsed." Patricia reaches across the table and squeezes his hand. "People make mistakes, Jason. What matters is what you do after." "I'm trying," he says. "But Mom, I don't know what comes next. No job, no wife, no plan. I feel like I'm 32 and starting from zero." "You're not starting from zero," I tell him. "You have education, experience, and now you have something more valuable. You know what you don't want to be." He looks at me. "Did you always know who you wanted to be?" "No. I stumbled into real estate almost by accident. Started as a property manager because it was the only job offer I got. Learned the business slowly, made mistakes, adjusted course." I pause. "The difference is, I never tried to pretend I was something I wasn't. I didn't leverage anyone else's reputation to build mine." "Noted," he says with a slight smile. "Build my own damn reputation." "Exactly." We're clearing plates when my phone rings. Unknown number. I consider ignoring it, but Patricia gives me a look that says answer it. "Hello?" "Mr. Whitman, this is Amanda Reeves with the county clerk's office." My stomach drops. "Yes?" "I'm calling to inform you that we've received a legal filing requesting a review of your property records, specifically questions about whether certain verbal agreements constitute binding commitments regarding future property disposition." "From Gerald Hendricks?" "From Hendricks Development Group, yes. The filing requests a temporary hold on any property transfers pending judicial review of the documentation provided." I close my eyes. "What documentation?" "Email correspondence, text messages, and what appears to be a preliminary partnership agreement draft. The claim is that these documents demonstrate binding commitments that supersede your right to unilaterally sell the properties. Those documents are fraudulent in the sense that they represent unauthorized commitments made by someone with no legal standing to commit my property. My son had no power of attorney, no ownership stake, nothing that would give those promises legal weight." "That may be, but the filing is procedurally correct, which means we have to process it. There will be a hearing in 2 weeks. You'll want legal representation. I have lawyers. Good, you'll need them. She pauses. Mr. Whitman, for what it's worth, these kinds of filings rarely succeed, but they do delay things. If you have a pending sale, you should inform the buyer that there may be complications. After she hangs up, I stand in the kitchen feeling the weight of escalation. Jason and Patricia are both watching me. Gerald? Patricia asks. Gerald. He's filed for a judicial review, requesting a hold on the property transfer. Jason sets down the dish he was holding. Dad, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. All those emails, those promises. You didn't sign anything legal, did you? No contracts, no formal agreements? No, just emails and texts discussing possibilities. Draft partnership structures that Veronica's father's team put together, but nothing I actually signed. Then his case is weak, but it'll still cause delays, legal fees, headaches for Pacific Crown. Patricia pulls out her phone. I'm calling Thomas Brennan. He needs to know about this before he hears it through official channels. She steps into the other room. Jason looks at me with genuine anguish. What can I do? He asks. How do I fix this? You already started fixing it. By quitting Gerald's firm, by being willing to testify, by being honest with us. I lean against the counter. But Jason, this is going to get uglier before it gets better. Gerald's not going to give up just because you had a change of heart. I know. And Dad, whatever you need, testimony, documentation, whatever, I'll provide it, even if it makes me look terrible. It will make you look terrible. You'll be admitting in court that you made unauthorized promises, possibly fraudulent ones, using property you didn't own. I know. Gerald might try to sue you separately for misrepresentation. Let him. There's steel in Jason's voice now. I'd rather face legal consequences than keep being his pawn. Patricia returns, face grim. Thomas knows. He's not happy, but his legal team expected something like this. They're already drafting responses. He says Pacific Crown is committed to the purchase, but we need to be prepared for this to drag out for months. Months, I repeat. Maybe longer if Gerald keeps filing extensions and procedural challenges. Thomas says guys like Gerald use the legal system as a weapon. They don't need to win. They just need to make fighting expensive and exhausting enough that people give up. I think about that. About months of court battles, about legal fees and stress and uncertainty, about Gerald thinking he can outlast me. No, I say. They both look at me. No? Patricia repeats. No. I'm not playing Gerald's game. I'm not spending months in court arguing about property rights that are completely clear. I'm not letting him turn this into a war of attrition. Robert, what are you talking about? I'm thinking fast now, ideas clicking into place. Gerald's strategy depends on me acting defensively, responding to his moves, defending my position, playing by rules he controls. But what if we go on offense instead? How? Jason asks. By making this public, by exposing what he's doing and why, by making him defend his own tactics instead of attacking mine. Patricia's eyes narrow. You want to go to the media. Not just media. Social media, business networks, every connection we have in this city's business community. We make it clear that Gerald Hendricks is weaponizing the legal system to punish someone for not rolling over when Gerald decided he was entitled to someone else's property. That's risky, Patricia warns. Everything's risky now, but at least this way we're controlling the narrative instead of letting Gerald control it. Jason speaks up. I can help with that. I know people in Gerald's organization, people who've seen how he operates, who might be willing to talk off the record about his tactics. That could ruin your reputation further, I point out. My reputation is already ruined. Might as well make it count for something. I look at Patricia. She's thinking, weighing options. Danny needs to hear this, she says finally. He knows people, has connections to business journalists, local news contacts. If we're going public, we need to do it smart. I call him. She does. Within an hour, Danny's at our house, listening to the full situation while nursing the bourbon I owe him. Ballsy move, he says when we finish explaining. But it could work. Gerald's powerful, but he's not universally loved. Plenty of people in the city's business community think he's an arrogant bully. If you can paint this as David versus Goliath, small property owner against corporate developer, you might get support. What's the downside? I ask. Gerald fights back harder, makes this personal, uses every dirty trick in his book. Danny pauses. And make no mistake, he has a very extensive book of dirty tricks. He's already using dirty tricks. At least this way, we're not just taking it. True. Danny swirls his bourbon, thinking. Okay, here's what you need. First, documentation. Everything. Every email from Jason showing he had no authority, every legal filing from Gerald, every threatening phone call or visit. You document everything because if this goes public, you need evidence that you're not just making shit up. We have most of that already, Patricia says. Good. Second, you need testimonials. People who've dealt with Gerald before. People who can confirm he uses legal intimidation as standard practice. I know at least 3 people who've been on the receiving end of his tactics. I can reach out, see if they're willing to talk. Do it, I say. Third, you need a compelling story. Not just rich guy bullies, less rich guy. You need emotion, human interest, something that makes people care. The father-son angle could work. Dutiful father protects his life's work from exploitation. Son has change of heart and stands against powerful father-in-law. That's good stuff. Jason shifts uncomfortably. I'll look like an idiot. You already look like an idiot, Danny says bluntly. Might as well own it and use it for something useful. Danny, Patricia protests. What? I'm just being honest. Jason screwed up. Everyone knows he screwed up. The question is whether he's willing to admit it publicly and help his father in the process. Jason takes a deep breath. If it helps Dad, I'll do it. I'll admit everything publicly. I'll be the cautionary tale if that's what it takes. Danny nods approvingly. Good. That's the kind of narrative people eat up. Prodigal son redemption angle. We can work with that. We spend the next 2 hours planning. Danny makes calls, reaching out to journalist contacts and business associates. Patricia drafts a statement, clean, factual, focused on the legal overreach rather than personal attacks. Jason compiles documentation from his time at Gerald's firm, emails and memos that show the culture of aggressive expansion and legal intimidation. By midnight, we have the bones of a strategy. This is going to piss Gerald off spectacularly, Danny warns as he's leaving. He's not used to people challenging him publicly. He'll retaliate. Let him, I say. I'm done being quiet. After everyone leaves, Patricia and I sit in the kitchen, exhausted but wired. Are you sure about this? She asks. No, but I'm sure I'm tired of playing defense. Robert, if this backfires, then we'll deal with it. But Patricia, I can't spend months in court watching Gerald try to steal what I built through procedural manipulation. I can't let him win just because he's willing to be more ruthless than I am. She takes my hand. Then we fight. We fight. We sit in silence for a while, holding hands across the kitchen table, gathering strength for whatever comes next. The next morning, Danny's journalist contact calls. Her name is Rebecca Chen, investigative reporter for the city's major newspaper. She's interested. I've been wanting to write about Gerald Hendricks for years, she says when I call her back. But getting people to talk on record is impossible. Everyone's too afraid of retaliation. I'll talk on record, I say. And I have documentation. And your son? Danny mentioned he's willing to provide insider perspective. He is. There's a pause. Mr. Whitman, I need to be clear about something. If we do this story, it's going to be thorough. I'm going to ask hard questions. About your business dealings, about the family dynamics, about what your son did and why. This won't be a puff piece making you look like a hero. It'll be an honest examination of what happened. That's fine. The truth is on my side. That's what everyone says. The difference is I can prove it. She's quiet for a moment. Okay, let's meet. Tomorrow, if possible. I want to see your documentation and hear the full story before I commit to anything. Tomorrow works. After we hang up, I feel a mix of fear and exhilaration. This is it, the point of no return. Patricia finds me staring out the window. Rebecca Chen, she asks. She wants to meet tomorrow. Are you ready? I think about that, about the business I built over 3 decades, about the son who tried to steal it, about the powerful man who thinks he can bully me into submission. Yeah, I say, I'm ready.